Welcome back to the Cave of Wonders, Dreamwalkers. I am your Sith Lord Callous for Lord Callous TV. And this is another Callous comic recap and review. So if you're new here to the channel, I need you to subscribe, hit that like button, then turn on notifications so you can join the Dreamwalkers on our journey. It is the dawn of the High Republic, and today I want to recap and review the first issue of the first installment of the High Republic, entitled There Is No Fear. This is Chapter 1, Trial by Ordeal. It was written by Kevin Scott. The artist is Ario Anindito, and Elisa Leone is the colorist, and Phil Noto is the cover artist. Now, let's jump into the story. We begin on the planet Sheridan, a Republic world that is home to a small, winged, fairy-looking alien species known as Zimpi. We are following Padawan Keeve Trennis and her Trandoshan master Skier as he begins her trials for knighthood. First, a duel between master and apprentice, and right away I notice that Master Skier is missing an arm. Now, they don't fully explain what happened in this issue beyond it having to do with the battle with the Nihil, so I'm assuming they'll address it in either subsequent issues or the novel Light of the Jedi, of which I am also currently reading. Until then, I'll just assume that it was a battle for his life. Keeve gets the best of her master after force pushing him into a tree, and that's when Master Skier explains that her true test is yet to come. She is to face the Needles, which are a cluster of thinly pointed rocks that stand as tall as a skyscraper. Master Skier hung a Tythonian pendant at the top of one of the peaks, and Keeve has to retrieve it without falling. She faces the challenge with her Zimpi companion Canry, and nearly fails, as one of the peaks cracks and crumbles. Keeve saves herself with her lightsaber, and in the distance she is able to see the Zimpi city, where Canry is from. Moments later, the Needles are swarmed by a large locust-looking insects. The structures are destroyed and Keeve plummets to the ground. Meanwhile, in the Starlight Beacon, Jedi Masters Maru and Avar Kriss are preparing for the arrival of hundreds of delegates so they can test the functionality of the beacon, following the events of the Great Disaster. Now, Grandmasters Vader and Yoda, they arrive sooner than expected to meet with Chancellor So to discuss the relief effort after Hetzel. Now, if you've already read or are currently reading The Light of the Jedi, then all of this will make sense to you. If not, then it actually could be considered spoilers, and they probably should have given some direction about the order in which these stories should be read if we are looking to keep the continuity in line. But to each his own, I guess, and I digress. Strangely, during this exchange, we learn that Yoda seems to have left the Jedi Council temporarily, while he is working through some mission on the Starhopper. Again, I'm assuming this will be answered in the novel, or perhaps in subsequent issues of the comics, and I'm currently only halfway through. But the Grand Masters offer Avar Kriss the position of Marshal of Starlight Beacon, and then we are taken back to Sheridan to follow Keeve and Master Skier. The Padawan finds her footing and then realizes that the giant insects are on their way to the Zimpi city. Now she is forced to choose between saving the Pixie's home or completing her trials. Defiantly, she hops in her Jedi Vector and heads off to save these little fairies. Keeve contacts Master Maru on Starlight Beacon, and he explains that the big bugs might be Redadi or Redaddy, something of the sort. They're a species of star locusts that migrate through space once a generation. Typically, they avoid inhabited worlds, but for some reason, something has changed. Keeve makes a connection with the Redadi through the Force, and she is able to see that they are all heading toward the Starlight Beacon. Master Maru informs Kiev that scholars believe the Redati follow the magnetic pulse of a star in the neighboring system when they migrate. So Kiev determines that the Starlight Beacon is now blocking that pulse and drawing them off course. She jumps back in her vector and tries to get ahead of the Redati. She rigged the ship to replicate the beacon's signal so the Redati will follow the ship away from Sheridan. Master Maru approves, and she places the vector on autopilot and then jumps free to land safely back on the ground. When Master Skier finally finds his Padawan, she is helping the Zimpi restore their damaged city. Having given up their only means of transportation, Skier seems agitated with his Padawan. He signals the Starlight Beacon for extraction, and they return to their safe space in the stars, where he presents Kiev to Master Avar Kriss. Though she did not retrieve the Tythonian pendant, Padawan Kiev Trennis is still knighted due to her quick thinking to save the beacon from the collision from the Star Locusts. Later that day, a dedication ceremony takes place for the Starlight Beacon, naming it as a symbol of hope for the entire galaxy, a symbol of unity. But during the ceremony, we get the impression that Master Skier is sensing something else going on in the station. We see him leave and make his way into a room where something causes him great distress. And that is where this story ends. For the first comic installment in the High Republic series, this issue didn't knock my socks off, but it was a solid 7. There wasn't anything that I really disliked except maybe for the artwork of Yoda, but I almost wish that I would have finished the novel first just to see if some of the references that were made were answered, or if they will be answered in later issues of these comics. I'm also a little unnerved by the fact that we are now seeing it introduced that Yoda actually left the council at one point. So now I'm curious to see what this Starhopper is and why it would cause him to resign his position on the council, if only temporarily. But otherwise, I like Kiev Trennis as a character and Master Skier so far. I'm enjoying Avar Kriss as well in the light of the Jedi novel. She gives me a Satil Shan vibe, which I rather like. I also like the look of the Jedi Vector. It reminds me of the ARC 170 starfighter that the clones flew during the wars, which was actually my favorite ship in Star Wars Galaxy's Jump to Lightspeed. So far, so good, I guess. But you guys let me know what you think in the comments. Are you enjoying the High Republic, or is it simply a hard pass for you? And if you're new here to the channel, subscribe for more Star Wars content. And if you're so inclined, we have memberships available for the channel. Join the Dreamwalkers on our journey and embrace a larger view of the Force. I'd like to thank my channel members John Matrix, Rhodes Rants, Biggles Metz, Callisto Arcus, and Keaton Haas. Thank you so much for your support. Remember, peace is a lie. There is only passion. Through passion I gain strength. Through strength I gain power. Through power I gain victory. And through victory my chains are broken. The Force shall free me. That is why I do what I love. And I hope you love what I do. This has been a Callous comic recap and review. Until next time.